Hello, everyone. My name is Hila Cohen, and I'm from the United Nations World Food Program Innovation Accelerator. Thank you for inviting me to your exciting event today. I was not able to come to Israel myself, so I'm sharing our portfolio remotely here from our accelerator in Munich. Before I start talking about what the World Food Program does in the blockchain realm, I will start with giving a bit of background about the World Food Program and about the accelerator itself. So when you think about food delivery, you might be thinking about what you will order through your mobile app for dinner or lunch at the office. In the World Food Program, we look at food delivery. We address some of the biggest hunger challenges in the planet, hunger caused by natural disaster or by conflict. The topic of hunger is a global challenge. Today, 1 in 9 people are hungry. It means that they go to bed without enough calories or nutrients. And this is a big challenge today for us in 2019 on the cusp of 2020. And how does WFP address this? So WFP is a United Nations agency. We're one of the biggest humanitarian actors in the world. We feed around 90 million people per year with our extensive operational activities. You traditionally probably think of us as the one bringing physical food, as you can see in the middle picture, with our very robust supply chain activities. On a daily basis, we manage a fleet of more than 90 aircrafts, 20 ships, and 5,000 trucks. But more and more, we're moving from delivering physical food into digital solutions. And that is more, for this year, it will probably account more than 1.5 billion in cash transfers. That means that we provide cash and families can decide what to buy. Another part of our activity is also, of course, helping the diverse elements in local food systems. And that's why we also work and support smallholder farmers globally. And so the big question in front of the WFP Innovation Accelerator and WFP as part of the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, is how do we disrupt hunger? How do we make the step change to change the challenge of hunger? How do we give solutions to the most vulnerable people on the planet? The good news is that as the world population is growing, the number of hungry people is decreasing. But if we continue with business as usual, still in 2030, there will still be half a billion hungry people on the planet. And that's where we're thinking where innovation can help us to make the big change. So this is why the World Food Program decided to create and design its Innovation Accelerator. We launched in 2015, and we support the World Food Program on a global basis with innovation for ending hunger globally. The team is based here in Munich, but as I mentioned, we have a global footprint. So this is a quick overview of our activities. What we do is 5 key topics. Well, first of all, what we do is thought leadership. We look at what are the changes that we see that are happening around us technologically, but we also need to think about how do we translate it to the operational realities of WFP, because we operate in locations where you don't always have running water or constant internet or even constant electricity. So you need to think about how do you look at disruption or how to look at frontier innovation, yet adapt it to where WFP and our local partners operate on a global basis. And this is where also our blockchain work comes in. What we do also is look from startups globally that have innovations that can help our program and WFP. Internal teams from the World Food Program can apply, NGOs can apply, and also startups can apply to our program. And actually, we have an Australian blockchain startup that went through this innovation sourcing process and is part of our program right now. So we do, so this is also, I'll take this opportunity also to call for any startups there or NGOs who think our program fits them to apply on our website. We also run an innovation bootcamp. This is a 5-day activity that we run in usually in Munich, but we've also done it in other locations. This is a very hands-on activity. we bring the best in minds of expertise from the World Food Program and from the relevant private sector expertise to help teams with product fit, with marketing, with technology, but really thinking about human-centered design for the SDGs. And we've run 25 of these boot camps over the last 4 years, so we've been very, very busy, and we're quite selective. From more than 5,000 applications, we've only invited more than 100 teams to our program. The next part of our program is to give funding. So there can be a team that comes to your boot camp and then can potentially get funding from us. It's an additional application process, and they can get up to $1,000 in funding. We give mentoring support, and then also we also give access to WFP field operations. I didn't mention this before, yet WFP operates in 83 countries around the world, and that is a great platform for startups and NGOs to test out their new ideas. We have, as I mentioned, a global footprint. This is just from our 2018 annual report reflecting where we have projects globally. And in 2019, we've even expanded our projects and footprint even further. And you can see more information on our projects on our website, innovation.wfp.org. So now we're also looking into scaling. I think now also in our realm, there's a lot of pilots. The question is, how do you take things to scale? So WFP already has a portfolio of scale-up projects, including some of our blockchain initiatives. And the goal is not to just run a pilot, but how do you take a good idea and replicate it to multiple locations? And this is something we've put special attention into and is a big part of our work in 2019 and 2020. And our goal in the end is to really bring innovations to scale. Our project building blocks, which I'll mention in a bit more detail in just a few minutes, is really an example of how you take an idea and really, from a really nascent idea with a really frontier technology, make it relevant to the realities where we and other people in the room look into. And we also want to be part of a bigger ecosystem as an innovation accelerator. We want to be a nexus for startups, for additional ecosystems like other UN agencies, other foundations and NGOs, and also the WFP platform itself to disrupt hunger. And now I'll move to the focus of this conversation today, which is blockchain. We started our blockchain journey a few years ago with a project called Building Blocks. And we were really trying to address a big part of the operations of WFP, which is cash-based transfers. As I mentioned before, cash-based transfers is a growing element of WFP operations. It's more than 30% of our operations focus now on cash-based transfers. And you can see the numbers, more than $1.7 billion transferred to more than 24 million people globally in 2018. In 2019, if we look at the numbers, WFP is the number 77 bank in the world. So if you look at that, that actually means that there's room for disruption and improvement in this realm of WFP's work and other organizations' work as well. And this is where Building Blocks came in. We had a problem that we wanted to address. For example, when we do cash-based transfers, we need to share our data with third parties, for example, local banks. And one of the things we want to address is how do we can maintain this information or make it more less detailed, so still giving financial services, but always assuring the privacy of our beneficiaries. Then we also want to make sure that we create an ecosystem for making cash-based transfers more efficient and transparent. And of course, how do you make the refugee experience the most let's say, the most fluid as possible? And this is how Building Blocks came into life. This actually was our finance officer from the World Food Program came to one of our boot camps, and this was 3 years ago. And he actually attended one of our boot camps. It actually was a 10-day boot camp, and it was very, very rigorous. I was actually working with this team in the early days. The idea was taking looking into all the challenges of cash-based transfers and understanding that blockchain is quite a nascent technology, at least it was 3 years ago. How do we take that and make it relevant for WFP. So we look with actually looking at this from a financial side and understanding how to create a solution for the refugees. So what we started doing is looking into the process itself. And the idea is that for the refugee, the actual, let's say, day-to-day experience when they go to get their cash-based transfer has not changed. They still go to a supermarket. They still identify themselves. What has changed with our project in building blocks is the back end. And that's where the blockchain comes in. We use a blockchain and we've created an e-wallet where the refugee information, their monthly allowance is recorded. And when they go to the supermarket, our system, the building block systems, connects to that e-wallet and informs us how much, and informs the supermarket how much cash that beneficiary still has. So in the day-to-day, the beneficiary doesn't feel a difference in their experience. It's more about how the information is collected and how the money is distributed. We still involve third parties. I think this is also sometimes a misconception about this project also, is that there is no involvement of third parties. Banks are still involved. The only change is the way that the aggregation of the tokens and the money that we give to the banks is different. Another element also, many people ask us, and I just also like to mention this, we're not using cryptocurrency. We're using regular money, just the system, the back end is a blockchain based one. And just to mention also the journey, because I think this is very interesting for many people. We started small. As this was a very exploratory project in 2017, we really started with a tiny pilot with 100 people in Pakistan. And then we, with the Jordan country office of WFP, said, hey, we can try this here. And now we also, as we grew, we initially supported 10,000 refugees. Now we're supporting more than 100,000 refugees. But we also realized that this is needed also a steering committee internally, because this was becoming something more and more robust within WFP. So we also have an internal team of management guiding us in our blockchain journey. We also have gone through internal audits and reviews. Again, I think this is something when we talk about innovation, maybe we forget these elements, but the more you want to scale your innovation, of course, you also need to look at your internal checks and balances. And right now, and this is of course the end goal, is how do we create building blocks as a platform to share work with others? And the first interagency pilot in Jordan has been with UN Women. And the goal for 2020 onwards is to scale as well to other locations. Right now, we're looking into Bangladesh. And so in the end, if I can summarize the work of building blocks, it's really to us, and if someone, of course, I'm happy to share more about our experience. Was all about how do we take a nascent technology and find the problem that it solves for WFP. And we wanted to, we had a very specific use case for blockchain initially for us with cash-based transfer. The interesting part was that later on we found a second use case for WFP for blockchain, and that's blocks for transport. This is a bit more of a different project, and this looks more on the logistics side of the work of WFP. As I shared in the beginning of my talk, logistics is a very big part of the DNA of the World Food Program. And here we're trying to see how can we replace paper documentation, that if some of you are involved in global supply chain activities, realize there's a lot of paper documentation that is transferred and from a moment goods arrive to a port and until they arrive to their final destination. The same challenge WFP has with food arriving to the port of Djibouti until it goes through, when it goes through the corridor on the way to our beneficiaries in Ethiopia. And our goal here is to replace, and this is just for you to understand how also the work looks in the port and also in our warehouses. You can understand the scale of our activities, and you can imagine how many paper documents can be transferred in the process of moving tons of food from Djibouti to Ethiopia. And so This is why this is the goal of our second project, Blocks for Transport. How do we increase the speed, the transparency, and the efficiency of our supply chain information? And this also relates to external actors. So this is where we also are, of course, we didn't do this project as an island. There's many stakeholders involved in this model of this blockchain solution, which is, and we had to involve all the stakeholders. We had to do a very significant mapping, and so it again started from a pilot. As I mentioned, this is a bit younger than building blocks, but just so you understand, we calculated that there's more than 26 documents that are changed hands in the process of the movement of foods from Djibouti to Ethiopia. There's more than 40 interactions between diverse stakeholders, and we have more than 15 stakeholders in this whole process. So really the goal is to use blockchain as an information system to create one storyboard for all involved in the food movement. And right now, we started with a proof of concept in 2019. Now we're working on, in 2020, on the minimum viable product. So what will be the actual blocks for transport solution? And then hopefully by end of 2020, this is a product that will stand on its 2 feet. So as you can see, WFP has an interesting journey with blockchain, and we're only in the beginning of it. Our website, as you can see, is innovation.wfp.org, where we try to share a bit of our experiences. And I hope our contribution will help at a larger scale the whole discussion on blockchain and the SDGs. Thank you.